peace be with you as I welcome you to day 3 of the Misfit March Madness Review Gauntlet, and on a wonderful Casual Wednesday, no less. What is Casual Wednesday, you might ask? Well, fellow viewer, it's the unsung hero of the week, Hump Day's red-headed stepchild, and Casual Friday's rebellious cousin that most don't want to invite to dinner. Basically, it's a made-up holiday that I thought of to get through the week, and if you can't dish out what I'm serving, then good day to you. So, how does one celebrate the holy Wednesday of casualness? By scarfing down on some shoujo anime, of course. As for the shoujo anime of the day, well, my opinion on this is kind of mixed, but I hope you will still enjoy the review. Now, without any further ado, it's time to talk about the atmospheric historical shoujo romance that doesn't involve that identity-seeking bonehead, Snow White with the red hair. Shirayuki, which literally translates to Snow White in Japanese, is a cheerful, red-headed girl living in a country of, it's a complicated name, Tanbrun, who works diligently as an apothecary at a herbal shop. Her life changes drastically, however, when she is noticed by the silly prince of the land, Prince Shirayuki-hime is he, lord of the blah blah, who then tries to force her to become his concubine. Unwilling to give up her freedom, Shirayuki cuts her long red hair and escapes to the forest, where she is rescued from Raji by Zen. Oh my god, the names. Zen Wistalia, the second prince of a neighboring country, and his 2 aides. Hoping to repay her debt to the trio someday, Shirayuki sets her sights on pursuing a career as the court herbalist in Zen's country, Clairnice. Snow White with the red hair was a common experience to me. I feel like at times when watching this show, I can take in all of the world's world building pretty comfortably without needing any further explanation. In retrospect, Snow White is what would happen if you take the concept of the world still beautiful and fuse it with the economic jargon of Spice and Wolf, then took out any magical rain singing away. While it doesn't do exactly like these anime did, I still feel it was a nice attempt at telling a pseudo-economic story. All things were accounted for when it came to story continuity. We know who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, and everything in between. But it doesn't mean they don't try to give previously introduced characters more substance, which I appreciate. Of course, this anime's biggest draw is the theme of finding one's optimal pathway in order to achieve their calling, with less emphasis on the inevitable romance, but we'll get to that. All things considered, I'd say this is pretty realistic in most relationships today. However, as far as the story and characters go, this is where most of my praise runs dry, because the more I had to watch and rewatch the series, the flaws I saw before long began to really show. Before I begin, I want to preface that Shirayuki, the anime, diverges from the manga to tell a more original storyline. While I've always championed original storylines over the manga transfers, yeah, this is gonna get disappointing. Okay, where to start? I guess we could take care of the elephant in the room out of the way by saying this couple kinda sucks from a writing standpoint. Our heroine Shirayuki, you will see over the course of 2 seasons, is a forcefully premised Mary Sue. First off, her name doesn't really fit her surroundings, and while the anime is all about that escapism, for a historical anime with an impactful emphasis on world building, she feels really out of place. Like that extra puzzle piece in a box of 1,000 pieces that has no sense of being there. Or a more anime-like example, if everyone in Magi kept their Arabian names except Sinbad, who was oddly named Jeff for some reason. Just Jeff. In fact, Chisei from Magus Bride has a similar issue, but that's a story for another video. What needs to be taken from here is that I get it. I like the fact that the show does make practical elements of her character from the Snow White she was based from, turning her kindness into a desire to be an herbalist, being magically loved by everyone she meets, being desired as a trophy for her beautiful hair. It makes sense, but it's not without unintended consequences. While she is kind, I feel no motivation to root for her when she's down, because I know she will just shove her fairy tale kindness at the problem and it will go away. And since everyone she comes in contact with will eventually love her anyway, there's not much to the character besides her resourcefulness and straightforward way of dealing with problems. She's bland in every other category, and that's a shame. Speaking of bland as a poor man's cereal box, Zen is even worse. I even want to say worst character in this series. But for now, I have to mention that if Zen wasn't moving all the time, I'd say he might as well be a cardboard cutout. He doesn't get enough screen time as it is, because honestly, it would be boring to watch the daily lives of Mr. Perfect and his 2 musketeers. There's so lack of agency with both characters, yet I don't give a damn about him. I try to see something, but he's so boring. They try to fix this issue in season 2 when things get more shoujo, but by that point, I was like, meh. This is why I felt no real investment to care about their relationship as a whole, and I think that a lot of the problems in this thing could have been solved if their relationship was similar in the veins of Nikke and Livius from The World is Still Beautiful, where each had a major flaw to compensate their greatest asset. That way, as characters, they'd be a lot more palatable to grab onto than simply fairy tale lookalikes. Unfortunately, Zen does start out with nothing to really grab me on. You'd think the brother dynamic he has would be fleshed out to some point, but no! They instead decide to use it as a love rivalry that goes nowhere, and a big old pile of drama for how to pull the couple apart in season 2, because shoujo. But before we move on to presentation, let me not forget the other major flaw in this series, in that as far as the plot goes, both seasons came off as boring. Yet, a diligent attempt into telling an original storyline. Season 1 had the Spice and Wolf-esque herbology segments, which I still think are the more unique parts of the entire series. But I can't just ignore the slog it took me to sit through all that, and having to juggle the problems of an uninspired premise and abrupt romance line that had to be squeezed in a finite first half, also killing off any chance to expand the world's flavor texting of local and economic systems that started out so interestingly. Then season 2 comes about and B is all like, fuck it, we got the confession out the way. Now crank up the shoujo phasers all the way to 100 and let's see how this goes. No. To the show's credit, they fixed the slow slog and went for a more one-noted plot. However, they sacrificed the economic's potential. There's still stuff like that in here, but now it's more like, hey you, remember that guy who wanted you as his side bitch in the first season? Well, he's back for a buddy co-ride this time. Oh, and watch out for the mysterious new character who may or may not be a love interest. But run along now. You know what the worst part of all of this is? As I was writing the script, at first I was thinking about the plot of the manga more than the anime, so a good portion of my info was mixed up for a week. Not gonna lie, the manga's plot is still kind of a slog, but I expected as much for the economics and herbology we were getting. Honestly, I know I've said a lot of negatives here, but I do see the potential. I do see what could have been fixed in the right manner, but that's just how the over-detailed cookie crumbles, I guess. Though that does remind me of one good thing I can think of with no qualms. It's presentation, and we will get to that after a quick commercial break. If anything can be said about this series is that Bone still does a damn good job with its art direction. That's some pretty pixels for ya. But I was expecting nothing less from the studio that brought us most of our anime childhood. For this series in particular, the highlight has to be the set pieces hands down. The backgrounds are so brimming with detail and life that you just really want to live there, and Bones has been one of the champion studios for creating a world. I noticed that the show's color palette was very soft except for the uses of red and blue, which presented themselves in richer varieties, and I really like that. It helped our main couple pop out of an already busy and wonderful scenery, while at the same time giving me breathing room to appreciate everything else art-wise, letting me take it all in at my own pace. Though in motion sometimes, it's weird. Like, Episode 1 weird. Soundtrack-wise, it felt like a fairy tale. Very calm when it was calm and actiony when it wasn't. I don't have much to say on this, honestly. Same goes for the opening and ending. After the first time through, I did the good old faithful skip ritual all the rest of the way. But despite the lovely art, a boring anime is still what it is at times, with the sub-performances not leaving me with much impact either. Normally, I don't comment on the Japanese voice tracks, but this one felt very one-note to me. Nothing bad-sounding, but nothing memorable either. So does the dub fix this issue? It's tricky. It's more of a question of, did the Funimation dub sound not boring, rather than solely being about quality? Then yes! Once again, they did a fantastic job overall. Not to tout the dub performances for a bit, but against what it had to work with, anything would have been made it more memorable. Still, I appreciate the care that went into it. All the dub cast sounded warmer in comparison to the seiyuu, and their dynamics better forged. Jamie Marchi and Ian Sinclair's performances of Zen's two aides is the best in terms of duo dynamics go. They just worked off each other so well. It felt endearing and varied with a variety of emotions. Brita Palencia played our leading lady this time around, and oh Yeah! Did it sound smooth as butter? She really owned that role in my opinion. While Zen, played by Josh Grell, is very welcomed addition to finally giving life to the character, I could feel a nice sass to gentleman mixture perfectly ooze from his performance, and anything that can fix this bland cutout is good for me. But let's all be real here. Todd Havercorn was such greatness. Oh my god, it fits him so well. That slight campy nature, the ups and downs of being a whiny prick. I want to say he steals the scenes he's on, but I'm such a Todd fanatic already that even I gotta reel in my bias. I will say that he always came off to me as that weird standout that comes out of left field, but this is why I like his record so much. Snow White with the Red Hair I wouldn't say is a disappointing anime that didn't live up to its art hype, but it does have many flaws that, while attempted to improve with fun ideas, just kept it being the anime that you watched once and not again. I can't stress that enough though. I did love the show more when I watched it that first time through, but the more I had to watch it for review's sake, did much more harm than actual good. It's just the nature of anime reviews sometimes. The story was its lowest point, fixing a lot of the focal issues and slog in season 2, but not completely, with season 2 taking away much of the economic learning aspect that kept season 1 more unique. As for playing the fairy tale, it originates from, okay, it checks some boxes of similarity, but after the initial story, it just falls on deaf ears. Though in the end, it's on the eye of the viewer to determine that opinion for themselves. So, after some consideration and 6 carefully made herbal remedies made in a hurry before leaving in the dead of night, I award both seasons of Snow White with the Red Hair with a recommendation to try it and a watchability rating of PG. I determined that it wouldn't be completely fair to lower the score simply because of the more flaws I found in multiple watch-throughs. I feel that most people just watched it during its running season or at least just once, and for those people, you will find more enjoyment. But unless you're a huge Bones fan, I still think this title isn't worth having on your shelf if the animation alone doesn't do it for you. In this scenario, I recommend streaming the show instead, which you can do over on Funimation streaming service for the US, UK, Canada, and more specifically Verb for you guys in Australia. Though if you're living in the good old US of A, there's also Hulu and Yahoo View as a secondary option. As for anime alternatives, this time around it's going to be pretty easy, since stories about red-haired heroines in fantastical situations are more common than you think there are. First is the currently running Ancient Magus Bride, because honestly it does everything this show tried to do, but 2 times better and more interestingly. But you probably have heard of that, so I also point you towards the already mentioned anime from earlier, The World is Still Beautiful, because this is how you do a good couple in a similar setting in today's anime, even if half the couple is pretty much jailbait. Next, we have the anime Yona of the Dawn and Sayukoko Monogatari, 2 shows with a harem aspect that both take advantage of the world building brought before them and tells a fantastic and intriguing tale through the eyes of 2 of the best female harem leads of all time. And finally, something obscure, and I would say Maria the Virgin Witch, but I know most people have seen that already. So, how about Count and Fairy, since I feel like this is what Snow White would have been if it had a magical element. I think that covers all of my bases, so hopefully one of these will pique your interest. And we are good! Time to wrap things up here on a wonderful Casual Wednesday! A holiday I'll be more vocal about as time goes on. So tell me about what you guys think of today's review, somewhere around in my little corner of the internet. Like the video, comment down below, subscribe to the Anime Misfit today if you're new. We're welcome in the Casual Wednesday ritual that will one day outpass Hump Day, and if not, tough coconuts on them. So while you go find a nice comfy place to take a nap, I gotta hop in a plane to Boston for a certain anime convention. Shannon out!